And so, yeah, today we're talking about our Southeast Asia trip. I will be going to Vietnam, Thailand, and Malaysia. It's a really cool trip. It's really unique. We have it on our website as listed as a 4 out of 5 activity level. And I think that's really not accurate. I think it's really like maybe 3 at the most. There is some walking, but it's really a pretty leisurely amount of walking. There's a couple of optional excursions, activities like a kayaking, an afternoon on a kayak, but even that is not like whitewater kayaking or anything crazy. So we'll kind of go through the itinerary in a minute. But I did want to clarify that I think we sort of overdid it. I don't think it's not, you don't have to be super athletic to be able to enjoy this. It's a lot of culture, history, a lot of great food, those kinds of experiences. It's not like we're hiking and, biking and kayaking all the time. So it's definitely pretty relaxed that way. A little bit about us. Like I said, my name is Diana, and I am the director of Travel Avidly. And we focus on small groups. So most of our trips have no more than 8 to 15 people. They average at about 12 people. We have one cruise every summer that goes down the coast of Croatia where we charter a yacht, and that we do up the numbers a little bit to right around 20 people. But otherwise, most of our tours are very small. The idea is that you feel like you're traveling with a group of friends, not like like you're with a tour group. We have a lot of single travelers, and so we can either pair you with someone or we have the single upgrade option. We try to keep that expense minimal because we know that adds a lot for people who are, who are wanting the single upgrade. So we try not to take advantage of that, and we just charge what our cost is, that difference. We've been doing this for several years. Jim has been doing this for about 7 or 8 years. And we've now got several trips under our belt. We're really enjoying it. This is my first time to go to Southeast Asia. We do always work with small guides so that they are really focused on that country. They are focused on all of the activities, the culture, the history, the food. We have experts, there who are on the ground. And there's always a trip leader from Travel Avidly there as well. Like I said, this trip, I'm about 90% sure that it's going to be me. And then I handle kind of logistics, especially if a problem comes up, if someone has to get back to the States quickly because there's a family emergency, any kind of bump, I handle that. If there's allergies, I make sure that we're, working around that. So all those kinds of things, we handle those kinds of details. Another thing about our company that's a little bit different, we actually offer before each trip, we offer 2 to 3 sort of information sessions, educational sessions. And that's a great time for everyone to meet each other, everyone else who's going on that trip. And we'll talk about, again, the culture. We'll talk about the languages. We'll learn a few key words. We'll talk about why are these temples important? Why is Ho Chi Minh important? Learn things so that you're not landing, not knowing anything about what's going on. And like I said, it's a great way for you to meet other travelers who are going to be on this trip. So if you're looking for a roommate, it's a great way to meet someone else who's also looking for a roommate. The last feature that I like to talk about is that we have very flexible payment plans. So you can put about 15% down for any trip, and then you can you can work out a payment plan. You just need to be paid about before 90 days before departure. But we can help you with that. There's no fees, there's no interest, so it's cheaper than using your credit card even. And so we try to make that flexible so as many people as possible, can go on our trips. Great. So it's the first couple of days is usually our travel time. We leave, we leave on an afternoon or an evening. We arrive the next day to Vietnam. So we'll arrive in Hanoi and we'll have a welcome dinner that evening, kind of check into the hotel, relax for a little while. You can walk around the area, but we won't be doing anything formal that first night because everyone's usually pretty tired. And so we jump in, we have a welcome dinner so we can kind of jump in the next day. That night, we do like to have pictures of the accommodations because people like to know where they're going to stay. We are staying mostly in about 4-star hotels while we're on this trip. And so the first night is in the Hanoi Babylon Grand Hotel and Spa. So there are spa options, which are always fun. And there's breakfast included every single day at every single hotel. And we provide most of the lunches and about a third or a half of the dinners. And that's listed line by line on our website if you go through the itinerary. So this is not an all meals included, but it is a lot of the meals. But there's a lot of times where we're eating at little restaurants, where it's a little bit easier just to kind of keep it separate. So we'll get started. We'll have breakfast and then we'll start with a guided tour of Hanoi. One of the things that we'll be seeing is the Temple of Literature. It was built in 1070. It always blows my mind when I'm doing a trip in Asia like this because the dates are so wildly different than anything in America or even in Europe. This was actually dedicated to Confucius. So we'll visit that. We'll visit the One Temple Pagoda, which is actually the one on the far right. Just the picture fit in a little better over there. And then we'll actually visit Ho Chi Minh's residence, which is kind of surprising to a lot of people. That is the photograph in the middle. It's very simple. It's very small. It's only about 3 rooms. And he had it built especially, this way. He had it designed. He wanted something very simple. He wanted to be surrounded by nature. It was built in the corner of the presidential gardens. And it's just very, very simple. There's a lot of open air windows, the woodwork on the inside, it's, wooden tables, everything is very basic, not really fancy. And a lot of people are surprised by that. But it was important to him to live simply and to be able to focus on his work and to not be surrounded by grandeur, which I thought was kind of interesting. So then for lunch, we'll go to a cafe called the Koto Cafe, which is kind of cool because it's actually, it's a cafe that's used for vocational training for disadvantaged youth. So we'll be able to support that business and that nonprofit. And then that afternoon, we'll do a walk in the Old Quarter. We'll do a walking tour with our guide in the Old Quarter. Day 4, this is actually super, super cool because we're going to go on an overnight cruise. So we'll go to Halong Bay, and so we'll board the boat. Everyone will just need to pack an overnight bag. We'll leave all of our stuff, the rest of our things in the hotel in Hanoi because we'll be back the next day. So it's just a simple overnight bag. But we'll get to go on this, we'll go on a cruise, and then we'll also take these small boats so that we can go into some of these really cool caves and these grottos with the stalactites and the stalagmites. This is all from limestone. And then with the water around, and then with weather, they've been changed and what's the word? Not evolved. They've been formed from the limestone, because it's such a soft rock has been modified in this way. So you've got all these really cool caves as well, which is super cool. A few pictures of the boat. So the cabins are very, very nice. It's a very good sized boat. And then we'll have all of our meals on the boat. I know dinner that night and breakfast the next morning. And I think lunches as well. But it's really, really beautiful. The next morning, we'll wake up on the boat and we'll actually get to do a Tai Chi session after breakfast. Then we'll have the rest of the morning to sort of sunbathe, relax, enjoy the view. Then we'll have brunch at around 11:30 before we get back to Hanoi, and then we'll transfer back to the hotel. That evening, we'll have what is pretty unique, but it's a pretty traditional, what's called a water puppet performance. And so you can see that in the bottom right corner. There's all kinds of different stories and parables and different kinds of stories that they do. And they utilize the water. It's very cool. And there, you can't see right behind the curtains are where the puppet masters are. So you can't see them. So it's really, really unusual as far as puppeteering goes. The next day, we'll go from Hanoi to Chiang Mai. So we'll have a free morning that morning to sort of walk around a little bit. You'll kind of know Hanoi by that point. So we'll get to, have some free time, and then we'll fly to Chiang Mai. So we'll go in the early afternoon, we'll arrive in the early evening. And Chiang Mai is one of the most, it's incredibly beautiful. It's incredibly picturesque. Actually, I have a friend who lives there, so I'm planning to go a few days before so I can go and hang out with her a little bit. But it's actually called the Rose of the North, which is beautiful. And it's this trip, I don't know, altogether, I can't wait for this trip. I feel like the combination of things that we get to do between the city, the countrysides, the temples, the places we get to visit, the things we get to do, I don't know, it's a really, really unique trip. In Chiang Mai, we'll be staying at a really nice hotel called the Bella Nara. So you can see the rooms are lovely, all the accommodations, the dining is lovely. That's where we'll have breakfast the next morning before we start our day, which will be day 7. So today we'll actually get to go to the Elephant Reserve. So we'll get to learn a lot about the conservation efforts that they have with the elephants right now, how they care for the elephants on a daily basis, and we'll also receive a lecture on the sustainable tourism practices. They're trying to sort of obviously, have this become more widespread. It's an issue in this part of the world, and proper care of the elephants, and so there's a movement, obviously, to improve the conditions for the elephants. We'll actually get to have lunch while the elephants are having lunch, just a few feet away. So we'll have lunch while we're there and get to hang out in pretty close quarters with the elephants. And I'm a big fan, so I'm pretty excited about that as well. That afternoon, on our way back, we'll actually stop at the Kaomi Estate, which was a tobacco farm. And so there were tobacco drying barns all around. And so they've completely remodeled it. So it's actually People can stay there. There's kind of a resort there, but there's also a cafe with really, really good coffee. Excuse me. And it actually holds a cultural heritage conservation from UNESCO for new design accreditation, which is cool. So it's really beautiful grounds. We'll get to walk around there, have some coffee. It's also a cool thing to bring home as well, some coffee beans. I love to get coffee wherever I go. When I was in Costa Rica a few months ago, I brought like 5 pounds of coffee back and passed it around to friends. So it's definitely a fun souvenir. Day 8, we'll head from Chiang Mai to Bangkok. So we'll actually, once we arrive to Bangkok, we'll have a full day visit to the temple, which is a temple complex, Doi Suthep. It's really cool. You can actually listen to, there's so many monks there that you can hear them chanting throughout the day. We'll be able to stay for the full day until about 6 o'clock. This is probably, you can see the steps there. This is probably the most athletic part of this trip in that there are 300 steps to go up. But literally this is like the hardest few minutes that we're going to have on the entire trip. So it's not terrible. And that leads to, those 300 steps lead to the temple complex. We'll have the day until 6, like I said, and then we'll be boarding. I'm sorry. So yeah, that's our day in Chiang Mai. Then we board the train that evening at 6 o'clock for a 13-hour train ride. Sorry, I was a little confused for a second. We'll board the train, have the 13-hour train ride. That's a picture on the right. They are simple, but they are very nice. They're very clean. They're very easy. There are bathrooms, all of that. So it's 13 hours. We'll get there the next morning to Bangkok. And then I actually got this a little bit wrong. This is that next night we'll be staying here while we're in Bangkok. Again, a really nice hotel, but I put it in the wrong place. I apologize. So we will wake up and we will check in here. We'll drop our things off for the day, actually have breakfast here, which is nice, and then start our day in Bangkok. So here we'll get to go on another river cruise down the river, and we'll get to go into, this is on a traditional boat, and it's small enough that we'll actually be able to go exploring through the klongs, the canals, which are very, very cool. And so we'll have a river cruise for about half the day. And then after that, we'll go to the Grand Palace, which is on the far right. And then we'll also go to the Temple of the Emerald Buddha, which is in the center there. This is, very ornate, highly ornate. It's with a lot of the sort of grand architectural traditions of Thailand. Next day, we'll go from Bangkok to Krabi. So this will be a flight. We'll arrive, and this is our sort of really, really cool beach time. So we'll have an informal tour of the town that afternoon with our guide. We'll have dinner at a restaurant. There's sort of a really nice port area there where we can pick different restaurants. Everybody can eat, can have a good beer, just kind of relax for the evening. While we're in Krabi, this is the only time we're staying at a big chain, which is the Holiday Inn Resort, because it's easy, it's lovely, it's a really nice place. We try as much as we can as a company to stay in either boutique hotels or at least independently owned, but every once in a while we don't have the options, and this is one of the nicest places, and it's a great place to stay. So the next day, the next 2 days will be in Krabi, days 11 and 12. So that will include CBT. When I first saw it, I was like, wait, CBT, wow. But it's just the cultural, shoot, I just lost the word. It's the conservation of tourism. I totally lost the word. So anyway, we'll go there. We'll learn a lot about sort of ecotourism in this area. It'll include a half-day nature walk. Then we'll have the optional sea kayaking, which is, that's, again, if people want to do it, they can. If they want to just hang out on the beach, they can do that as well. Then we'll have a home-cooked lunch and then an organic mulberry leaf tea tasting for lunch. After that, we'll be able to have some free time walking through the village. There's some beautiful fruit orchards. These are actually pineapple growing in the region. And then that's a mangrove. That's a group of mangroves that we'll get to actually visit as well. Mangrove forest, that's the word I'm looking for. So yeah, that's everything for that day. And then that's the first day. And the second day is just kind of free time. So you can do free time on the beach, walk around the village. It should be just a really, really relaxing afternoon, relaxing day for day 12. Day 13, we'll go to Kuala Lumpur, which they call KL. That's how everyone refers to it. So we'll take a flight there. That afternoon, evening, we'll do a walking tour around the hotel. And then in that evening, we'll do a kind of more official evening tour of the Bukit Bintang walkway, which is where you can see the Petronas Twin Towers at night. And that's why I have the nighttime picture, just because it's a really, really beautiful skyline. It's a really picturesque city. It's beautiful. You've got the classical architecture as well as the very modern. So definitely a very strong East meets West. This will be a free dinner that evening. Everyone can go where they want. You can do anything from like fantastic street food to like almost Michelin star quality meals, all right very close together. So there's lots and lots of dining options. And so people can sort of do what they want this evening. While we're here, we'll be staying at the Royal Chulan in Kuala Lumpur. And so again, beautiful. I think all of our accommodations for this trip are really, really nice. Very, I would say at least 4-star. And then we'll have breakfast in these, the beautiful dining rooms. So yeah, all the spaces are lovely. They're very clean, very well kept, and very highly rated. So then we'll, that day 14, we're winding down on the trip. We'll have the free time to spend this day. And it says free time, but basically we're going to have options. So we will have a guide with us for this day. And so he'll be able to advise us, what kinds of things do you feel like doing? There's the National Monument, there's the National Mosque, Istana Negara, which is the Imperial Palace there in the center. You can actually stroll around the square if you'd like. If people want to go souvenir shopping, they can do that. There's also some really fantastic bicycle tours. I'm a big fan of bicycle tours. I try to do them everywhere I go. I've done them in Paris and in London and other places in England. I've done them in Italy. So I love bicycle tours. I think they're a nice speed to get to know a place. So that's one option that people can do then as well. And then our last day, we'll be heading to Singapore. So we'll travel by bus. It'll be about 4 hours. Once we get there, we'll do that first thing in the morning. Once we get there, we'll do a walking tour through Little India and Chinatown. We'll get to see Clarke Quay, which is the picture in the middle, all the really brightly lit buildings. It's really, really pretty, really fun. Oops, lost my page. Sorry about that. And then, yeah, that afternoon, there's an optional river cruise if people want to go on. It's just a couple of hours. But some people, if they want to do some souvenir shopping or do the walking tour through, there's so many parts in Kuala Lumpur to get to know and to wander around. And then we'll have a farewell dinner that evening with the whole group before we leave. And this is where we're staying in Singapore. So lovely accommodations. And then day 16, we say goodbye. These are pictures from Thailand, just because that's my favorite place that we're going on this trip. And I thought these pictures were super fun. Pricing, just to review very quickly, it's $3,900 for double occupancy. If you'd like to upgrade that to a single upgrade with a private room, then that would put it up to $5,275. This, like I said, it does not include air, but it does include most of your meals. I'd say about 2/3 of your meals. And all of your admissions, all of your accommodations, all of the inter-Asian flights are included in this, and the buses, all the transportation, everything. So everything. The only things not included are some of the meals, about 1/3 of the meals, as well as any tips that you might want to to give to our guides. And the last thing would be souvenirs, obviously.